Welcome to the Point of Convergence podcast. I am your host, Grant Lira. Get ready to sit down, tune in, and implement. Remember, the knowledge you learn here and anywhere else in your life is only worth something to you if you use it. So get implementing after this episode and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of Remodeling Millionaires. Today, we are joined by Laureen of Wren and Willow. So they focus on custom homes and remodeling, and today we have the opportunity to pick her brain for a while. So, Laureen, how's everything going?
It's going well. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Awesome. Absolutely. And, for those of you who are listening and not watching this, we're going to talk a little bit about the building she's in later, but the wallpaper and just the aesthetics of the actual building is very impressive. So if you're lucky enough to be watching this, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you're not, just take my word for it because it's very nice. So, Laureen, 60-second snippet, where you're at right now, what you're focusing on, and all that fun stuff.
Okay, well, right now we're actually starting to develop a property. We are in the process of building a very large 21,000 square foot, we're calling it the Carriage House, and it's basically a mixed use space. So this is a new venture for us to actually be developing the land, but we're very excited about it. We're hoping that this will be a new avenue for us to begin developing property, and we continue to build custom homes and other commercial spaces, as well as larger remodels. That's where we're at the moment. Awesome. And within that,
how did you get into? Because it's funny. A lot of people I talk to, they're either doing strictly commercial, strictly residential. You guys are doing a lot of that stuff and custom builds within that. So, I mean, where did that all branch from? How'd you get started? And, when did all that come into play?
So I can go back 16 years ago when I first started the business, and I had my background was interior design. And so I just started my own interior design company and worked for and with other builders, mostly in remodels, some custom home interior design. But after about 2 years of just doing that, I decided that I wanted to take it not just from the design and then leave, but take it all the way through. I felt like my sense for perfection and wanting to make sure that the project ended well, that I kind of had to jump in and actually be the general contractor. So I looked into what our state required for getting a general contractor's license, completely entrenched myself in our local Master Builders Association, learned a lot, took some classes, and decided that I was going to be the general. So started out very small, little bathrooms and small kitchens. And then it just, over the years, you build and build and build your reputation. And then you're able to get to where we are today, developing a very large project.
Yeah. And within that too, so developing your skill set, broadening what you offer. Now, with that, I know that there is a lot of scaling. There's a lot of extra power that you need to do that, more people on staff. So talk about how you scaled up to that, because I'm sure if you were just, going back when it was just you probably couldn't do everything.
No, and I couldn't then either. And I'll say I was smart enough back then to know that, especially as a woman, there are not a lot of women general contractors. Many times you'll see that, they're the wife of the general contractor and they have their part in it. But in my case, I did this completely on my own, but again, smart enough to know that I don't look like a general contractor. I don't talk like a general contractor. Those are all good things. But I decided that I really needed to partner up with someone that, had the look. And there is someone that I had met a couple years earlier, and Cliff Kendall, who came almost immediately with me to start this division of our company. And so that he did a lot of the legwork. He was out there working in the field. I was doing the design, and it just grew from there. After the first year or two of it just truly being the two of us and hiring a lot of subs, we realized we need to actually start hiring more people. And so you just kind of take baby steps, and then as you are asked to do more and larger projects, you realize that you need more people. So that's really how it started.
Now that's really interesting, because something I've never gotten into on this podcast is like identity. And I think a lot of people, when they think about general contractors or remodeling in general, they have a pretty stereotypical picture of, who they see when they do that. And so kind of breaking that mold obviously will set you apart a ton. But have you seen like people are, I guess they have their guard down a little bit more? Like they're not like, okay, well, it's a contractor construction. Like I've heard about the horror stories. Like what have your experiences been, throughout that process?
In trying to not be like the other contractors, I think, to be completely honest, I think that every contractor has to deal with that. There's a lot of what we refer to as, chuck in a truck contractors out there, where they're going to do things under the table. They're going to show up whenever they feel like. So, being part of the Master Builders Association, making sure that we are licensed and bonded, our credentials are such that, we really emphasize that when we meet with clients. Look, we're licensed and bonded. We pay our sales tax. We do everything right. I think that in itself helps people to feel more comfortable. But, I think people are very jaded. There's just been horror stories of people that'll take their deposit and then you never see them again. So we encourage folks to do their research, check L&I, make sure that the person that you're hiring is truly licensed and bonded. The subcontractors we use are as well. So I think that makes a big difference. Yeah.
I agree 100%. And it's something cool too, where I've talked about this a little bit before, but like it's free to be on time. It doesn't cost you any money. It's such a big thing,
And it's free to call if you're going to be 10 minutes late and just say, hey, we are on the way. We didn't forget. Something came up. People are great. They know that, but it's just showing them respect and dignity like you would anyone else.
Absolutely. Then Laureen as well. So something I haven't got into a ton in the past with previous podcasts, but I want to with you, because you have a really unique story that's full of history. There's a lot going on there, and I would love if you could kind of share that with the audience, because I'm kind of spun up on it. I read a little bit about it, but I'd love to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Okay, so specifically how and why I wanted to be a contractor. Well, I'll since you mentioned history, I'll go way back to my grandfather, who came over from Sicily in the early 20s, and he was a brick mason, that was his income during the Great Depression. He even worked on Ellis Island. I think he built the steps there. And so I have a lot of pride in that. He wasn't educated. He could barely speak English, but he raised 4 children during, one of the country's worst economic times. And that's what he did until he, couldn't do it any longer. I was very proud of that history. And so it was always, I wouldn't say always, but as I, got older and started thinking about, what's my next career going to be, I thought a lot about that and how exciting it would be to carry on that tradition. My grandmother, on the other hand, was a nurse, and all of my cousins followed in her footsteps. And so I'm the one who decided to follow my grandfather's footsteps. So that kind of sparked something in me. And then again, with interior design and my background, I just felt that a lot of times when I would complete a project with the contractor and the client, we pick all the selections, then I was pretty much off the job. And so if the contractor didn't bring in skilled craftsmen to do the trim work, or they brought in a really bad sub and the tile work was all messed up, I felt like it reflected not only on me, but it was just so unfortunate that the client had to, we were so excited to have these beautiful things picked out, materials picked out. And then at the end, because of poor craftsmanship, they didn't get, the fullest experience and just perfect. So I decided that if I could be in control of that with my eyes, then we wouldn't have that issue. And I'm not saying we're perfect. Our subs are not. We don't hire robots, so mistakes get made, but we handle them. So once a mistake is made, then we make sure we go in and we fix it to the client and to my satisfaction. So that's kind of the story, the history of what got me interested in it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And now, with that, I want to talk a little bit about the building that you're in right now as well. We referenced it at the beginning, but tell me about that, because there's some really cool stuff going on there too.
Yes, there is. So the building we bought in 2011, again during another very difficult economic time in our country. So real estate was, at a point where it was affordable. And this building came up. It's 2,000 square feet. It was built 1917. It was in very rough shape. And we walked in and I looked around, and because of my design background, I can usually walk into a place and within just a few moments, I can feel and see, what it could look like, what the potential is. And so we talked with the owner about selling it to us, and he was in agreement. So I did a lot of history reading to see, what would have been then. And so we completely gutted it, took it down to the studs, and slowly put it back with reclaimed material. We've got post and beam in here that are over 100 years old. We found wood flooring that was from a knitting mill in our capital, Olympia, and brought that up and installed it. And then wallpapers, fixtures, we just a lot of reproduction pieces, reproduction lighting, some antique lighting. And so we've created a really unusual, unique space. People that walk in say, I've never been to an office like this, let alone a general contractor's office. So it's an inspiration showroom. It really houses our team here. We don't sell things out of it, but it's just to inspire. And it was a real turning point for our company. Before that, we'd rented a very small space. And once we finished this, it really put us on the map. It did great things. The fun history about this building is when we researched it, it was owned by a man who owned a candy shop, Fujina's Confectionery. And so we have candy here as a nod to that history. The real business took place in the back, because it was during Prohibition, and he had the back of the building as a speakeasy. So people would come over, bring their liquor, and sit back there and drink, but in the front it was a candy shop. So every year to celebrate, in 2017, when the building turned 100, we had a big speakeasy party to celebrate, and had, a bar set in the back and candy everywhere, and everyone dressed like flappers. And it was such a hit that people were like, you have to do it again. So now that's been our yearly tradition, with the exception, unfortunately, of last year. So I'm not sure we'll be allowed to do it this year, but we'll definitely pick it back up when we are. So
I love that. I like that a lot. I think that's super cool. And just going back to like what we were saying earlier, kind of breaking the mold, of the standard, like let's just say chuck in the truck, like that is something that's so cool. It's a really good way to kind of get people in there, show them that you guys obviously have a good time. You're fun. You like to do that kind of stuff. And it's good too, because that'll bleed over into the work, right? Like people see you there, they see what you're doing. They see, whether it be on social media or they're there in person. Something that they can expect as well in their home. So I really like that. I really like that idea. I think that's super unique.
Yeah, it does. And it's, we refer to it as a client appreciation time. And so
Yep.
we do invite a lot of our past clients and have them bring friends who become future clients. And
Yep.
you're right. It is just a great way to see that we don't take ourselves too seriously and we're real people. So it's worked out well.
So talking about that, right? Client appreciation, getting the referrals. How are you guys getting a lot of your business right now? Is it mostly referral based? Are you doing some internet stuff? What does that look like?
We are starting to do more internet.
Okay.
We dabbled in it a bit. I think we have someone now on staff who really knows how to do all that. I know how to do certain things, but above my pay scale to do a lot of that. So in the past, it really has been referrals. Again, this building, we're on a street that's very busy. So a lot of people will see our sign and give us a call. We've had a lot of walk-ins. People will just be enamored by this building and want to look around and talk about a project they have. So I'd say between those two things, we've been able to have steady work. In addition, we did the home shows for years. We haven't done that in a few. The Master Builders Association does a tour of remodeled homes every year. We've been on every one of them. So we've found ways to promote the company.
That's cool. And so in the beginning, without, any like social proof or any like experiences that past clients can share, or at least too many of those, how are you guys finding that business? How are you going out and finding that business when you guys were starting up?
A really good question. I've had a lot of people, starting businesses ask me that. I love business. I want to just say that. I love business. I love mentoring people. I find it exciting to chat with other entrepreneurs because I know it takes a certain kind of grit to be one and to stay in there. It's a roller coaster. It truly is. And so the first question I'm asked is, how did you get started? Well, I had a portfolio that I put together, designing friends' homes, designing, design projects. And so I kind of started showing people more of the design aspect of it. And then as soon as we started the construction end, I was then able to say, oh, and we actually built these doors. And yes, we built this cabinet. And you start out slow, but you don't share that. You just, with total confidence, put as many pictures of your work as you possibly can on your website. I mean, number one is build a website. Whatever money you have in your piggy bank, you start a website, and then you can slowly start putting pictures on there and talk with total confidence that you can do this. So, and again, early on, I was smart enough to know that Cliff, we needed to partner up. And so he had experience, and we were able to share his years of construction that he had done. And so together we came in as kind of a designer builder company, which people really preferred. They loved that was a one-stop shop, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we continued with that. Now we have an architect on our team, and I have a full-time designer that works under me. And so we've really built that design build process, and people love it. They really find that to be great.
They do love it. And I tell a lot of people this is no matter what stage they're at in their remodeling company, remodeling business, they should at some point look to evolve into a end-to-end company, right? Because
Absolutely.
thinking about the homeowner, there's a lot of moving pieces and they don't want to go find, a designer, an architect, a build, if you can do it all in one place, make it as easy as possible. That's obviously the goal. And then something else you said, Laureen, that I really, really liked was mentorship. And I agree with you that it is super important. I have had a ton of mentors throughout starting this business here. Now, have you seeked out mentors when you started, and how'd you find them? Because I think a lot of people are like, I want a mentor, but I don't know where to look.
Yes. Well, aside from reading a whole lot of business books, and you probably have as well, one of my favorite is The Purple Cow. And he talks about, setting yourself apart. And of course, being a woman in this industry, I knew that I had to. And one reason why I chose a name that wasn't just, L Construction, but I wanted something that people would really remember and be unique. But I read a lot of books initially, but what really helped was joining the Master Builders Association. I think I mentioned early on that I really became deeply involved, and I was not shy to ask my big brothers, as I refer to them, lots and lots of questions. Well, how do you do this? Well, what happens when a client does that? And they were so happy to share. I was, very respectful. I made it very clear that I am a woman and proud of it, and didn't want to be, I don't want to dress like them. I don't want to look like them. I want to be identified as a woman who gets it, who knows. And so I studied a lot. They are to this day my big brothers still. And I became so involved with Master Builders. I was asked to be on the board, which was, again, quite an honor. And then a few years after that, I was asked to be the president of our local chapter. And to date, unfortunately, I will say, I am the only woman president in its 75-year history. I hope that will change. I hope more women will become general contractors and be able to have that role. I was very honored. One of the best, years of my life, I will say. I'm very honored to be part of that. So that's how it kind of started. My mentor,
that's awesome.
Mentor. Yes.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because you did a lot of networking, and something else that I liked is you weren't afraid to ask questions. I feel like sometimes there's a little bit of an ego block where people are like, oh, I don't need to ask questions. But no, you absolutely should ask questions, because what you said, if you're an entrepreneur and you're in this space, odds are more than likely at some point in time, someone's given you advice and that's stuck with you for a while, whether that be through a mentor role or just talking with somebody. So a lot of the times those types of people want to pay that back. So it's something I know I get really happy when people ask me questions. I love to help people out. So that's definitely something. And with the internet now, networking is pretty easy. You can reach out to people on the other side of the country, even the world, when you're sitting at home in your sweatpants. So that's definitely something to look into as well. But I like that. I want to talk a little bit about your sales cycle and kind of how that looks in your company, because we talked a little bit about the marketing side of things. I want to see before they've ever talk to you guys, they're researching you to the finished product. How does that whole cycle kind of play out?
We have a process that we haven't had forever. Initially, we go on a sales call. We, spend some time. We wouldn't necessarily know what their budget is. We would put together a full scope of work. We'd spend a few weeks, gathering numbers together, sit down at the kitchen table, present a scope, and they would, usually freak out. Even 15 years ago, it's always more than everybody thinks. You kind of start there. And then we'd never hear from them again because, and we would say, look, let's talk about it. Let's see if, are there things that you're willing to shave off maybe, or is there some things that maybe you'd like to do yourselves to help? We always like to have that kind of back and forth. Over the years, we found that we were spending a whole lot of hours on estimating, not really knowing where they wanted to be. And it was, I hate to say waste of time because I don't think of any interaction that way truly. That every interaction you have is very helpful. However, as our team grew, I found that they were using a lot of hours and then we weren't necessarily getting the job. So we have changed our process and it's worked out really well. Right in the beginning, we will ask people, what is it you want to do and what do you hope to spend on this? Many people are afraid to share that. I'll say, look, I don't want to know what your bank account is. I don't know what you could spend on it. I want to know what you're hoping to keep this project at. So we find them to be more open. And then at that point, just from historical information, we can kind of nip in the bud and say, from what you're sharing, you want to do, your budget's low, or, your budget seems healthy. It seems reasonable. Now you need to go to the next step and get you accurate numbers. And so we then enter into a pre-construction agreement with them and we know they're serious. So we may get 20 calls in a given day. Maybe one of them will be a good lead. But imagine if we took 20 calls and did scopes of work and did all that for every one of them and found, they had $5,000 to spend on a kitchen when we knew it was going to be a lot more than that. So that's been the last few years we've done that and it's worked out really well. So that's been our sales process.
So these calls that you guys getting, all the inbound calls, is that driven mostly by referrals or is that from your marketing or where do those calls generate from?
A lot of them are from Google. We have really good reviews. It's not perfect, which we're actually glad about because we don't want people to think we just called all our best friends and said, hey. So I think Google needs to be honest. And I think you need to embrace even the negative ones because it helps and it teaches you things. That's a whole nother topic. But a lot of people come to us through Google and they'll comment and say, your Google reviews are great. Then we went to your website. Your work is stunning. And that's pretty much how it happens. Again, we've had walk-ins. We've had, referrals. You just finished my cousin's kitchen. It's so beautiful. We'd like you to do ours now. So it's a lot of different things that drive people to a business. It isn't just one thing.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And something about your sales process that I really like, and I would recommend people to start doing, if not just start testing, is asking that budget up front. And then make sure when you ask that you have a justifier, like Laureen said, because if you just asked, hey, what's your budget? What are you looking to spend? I think people a lot of times might get a little bit standoffish. And like you said, they're like, why do you want to know how much but hey, how much are you hoping to spend on this project so we can kind of see if this is realistic and we can see if this is something to look into and we can actually provide for you, right? It's a big difference just in phrasing. So really kind of getting that down and doing the testing within your own space and your own market to see how people react to that. But more importantly, that's going to be able to save you guys a lot of time because you're not going out getting all this information to people, like you said, who only have $5,000 to spend on a kitchen, right? That's not gonna,
right. And to elaborate a little bit more on what you said, you have to be very careful to still give dignity to the person on the other end of the phone. And so, that $5,000 might be money that they save for 2 years and finally they have it and they don't know, they have no idea. So we try to be very respectful and say, if that amount isn't going to get you everything you want, it might get you this, but it won't get you that. And so there's really an art to just having that discussion with people, because I know when it comes to money, it's very delicate, and it isn't. It shouldn't ever be communicated in a flippant way. And I've had to really train my team to do that. You be kind, let them know that 5,000 could go here and here, but just not here and there. So nobody's actually said they want a kitchen for 5,000. That's just a random number.
But even at the same time, though, like hypothetically they did. You guys obviously, I don't think anybody would be able to do that if they could run. But so within that,
yes,
right?
I've actually said that. Don't find another contractor if he says he can do it for. I've actually communicated that.
But now, something you said that I really like is, look, within that budget, we can do some things. We're not going to be able to do them all, but we can do
Correct.
X, Y, or Z. Now, within that, what you're doing is you're creating that, initial trust. You're going into their home. You're showing them something that you can't show them outside of reviews, and that's the experience of what it's like to work with you guys. So when they see that, they're satisfied, they might refer you out, or down the road, when they're like, okay, I saved up X and I want to do this now because I already know this is roughly what it's going to cost me investment side to do. I know who I'm calling. I don't want to go and talk to a whole new company. These guys were great last time. I love these guys. I want them to come back to my house. I miss them.
Well said. That was very well said. Perfect.
Definitely. Now, within all of this, so we've been talking a lot of positives, and we love to do that, right? It's fun to talk about that stuff. Has there been stuff you guys have done that just hasn't worked, or you've done this and you're like, this is the biggest waste of time? I think we talked a little bit about some wasted time, but whether it's regards to marketing, whether it's regards to the fulfillment process, what's something that you would advise people to stay away from if they can through your experience?
That is a really big question.
I lost you for a second. I got you.
Okay. I said that was a very big question because a lot of times you have to try it out to see whether or not it's going to pay off or not. And I guess my advice would be, you need to know when to cut your losses. So if you say did a home show for a couple of years and you didn't get anything from it, well, don't keep trying. Just say that's probably not a good way for us to promote the company. But you don't know until you try. And I'm one of these people. I'm maybe unique this way. I'm not fearful. I'm like, let's give it a shot. I don't know. This building that we're building right now, that we're developing, is a great example. There are a lot of upfront costs when you're developing land. You have an architect, you have an engineer, you have survey, you have a civil engineering. I mean, I'll go on and on. And those costs, $300,000-$400,000 you spend up front for plans before you even know if you can build it. Will a bank approve it? I don't know. If I wasn't willing to give that a try, that's part of that risk-taking gene that I think every entrepreneur has to have. Big believer in that. If I were not willing to risk $300,000-$400,000, which was painful because I knew that those plans could end up rolled up under my bed and I'd take it out now and again and visit it, I wouldn't be building the building today. So you kind of need to just try it out and see. And I just wouldn't want to stop anybody or say what they shouldn't do, because it's just unique for every person and every business.
Totally. And I couldn't agree more with that statement. Getting uncomfortable and doing stuff that isn't the status quo for you is where you grow, right? Especially in the entrepreneurial world, you're so right. We're all a little bit risk adverse, where we're like, okay, it's going to go one of two ways. And I'm willing to accept that because I see the reward And if there's not the reward and it goes the other way, which I don't want it to, there's other ways that we can, make that back or, take it in a different direction. So what you said was awesome. Not being afraid of that uncertainty and almost embracing it, because that's, a lot of the times where the diamond is on the other side, but also testing it out. You don't know if you don't try. More importantly,
Right.
You don't know if you don't try, and you don't track. You need to track that. You need to have some sort of metric so you know that, hey, this is working. Or like you said, I need to cut my losses. This has been the same thing for 4 years. Probably not going to change within the next, month or two. I want to go invest somewhere else with my, money,
Yeah.
so I can grow my business. But yeah, very, very, very well put. I like that a lot.
Good. Yeah.
Now we'll start to kind of wrap things up here. I'm curious, before we get into the closing bits here, less about the business side of things, more about personal. What's your do you have a daily routine? Do you do like a checklist or anything? Do you have habits you've been doing that kind of help you stay focused, or do you have any I guess secrets that you want to share with us?
Well, I have a very strong faith, so I pray every day, throughout the day, and it's really what gives me my inner strength, to be honest. Trying to maneuver all that you have to, especially in business, the stomach aches, payrolls tomorrow, where are we at with the account? And there is a very, I don't want to say dark side, but there's a very difficult side to running a business. We talked, as you said earlier, about all the benefits and all the highs and all the fun. But there's a whole nother piece to running a company that it is constant. It's gut wrenching at times. And so for me, that's my secret. I have a piece there. I would say that I really enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I have 7 grandchildren. And so as I grow the company, I think of it as leaving a legacy to them. That's what gets me up in the morning, to be completely honest, is that goal. My eldest grandson, since he was little, I've said, you're going to be the next president of Wren and Willow. And he's 12 now. And I keep asking, do you still want to be president of Wren and Willow? Oh, yes, he still does. So, when you get to this stage of life and your days are numbered, you've got to do it for a reason. I'm not doing it to buy a yacht or, a villa in Italy, although that all sounds lovely, but I'm really doing this to build it for my family. And that is beyond energizing. It really is. I don't know if that's something that men and women do. I have read that women tend to think of that a lot. And I don't know if it's, more than men, but it's definitely a driving force. I will say many times, I'm building an empire, and I'm not building it for myself. I really am building it for them. And that's what inspires me.
And I'll say from experience too, because I think you're right. I think it is a little less common in men, but when I, first started, I didn't really know like exactly my goals, exactly why I was doing what I was doing. Maybe it was like for materialistic thing. I don't know. But as soon as I kind of got that vision and that focus, and I was realizing I wanted to leave something, I wanted to build something, I wanted to support, my future children, all that stuff. That's when I had the biggest growth. That was it. Like focusing on not the money or the things, but focusing on what you can leave and building a better life for somebody else, even if you haven't met that person yet, right? Whoever it is, if you're a single dude just chilling by yourself, eventually, more than likely you are going to have to support somebody or be supported. But that is definitely so important. Having that vision and really figuring out why you are doing this. If you're just sitting there spinning your wheels every day, you might be making money, but you're a rudderless boat. You got to have that direction. You got to figure out where you're going. And like you said, whether that's faith, whether that's leaving a legacy or leaving something for your children, grandchildren, totally so important. Do not overlook it. Laureen, where can we learn more about you? Where can we learn more about Wren and Willow? Give us some websites, Instagram, anything like that.
Thank you. Well, if you click on Wren, WRENAND, WILLOW.com, that's our website. And there's lots of places to click on to get to know more about us, more about our projects, our current projects, past projects. So I think that would be best place to start.
Definitely. And as always, I'll throw that a link down in the description.
Okay.
But yeah,
Wonderful.
Check the website out because I'm looking at it right now. I got it up on my other screen here. And it's a good site. They got, all their, I think Laureen did a great job explaining the story, but if you want to read that again, definitely do, because they have, a very in-depth story about their beginnings and, how everything got started, but check it out for sure. And then Laureen, before we cut things off here, my biggest takeaways through this, just from listening to you, was mentors, super important. I think one of the most overlooked things in entrepreneurship is a mentor. You need to have somebody almost in a way to look up to, right? Talk to somebody who's in a position where you want to be, because they've already got there. They know what they're doing, obviously. Within that also, do not be afraid to take risks. Risks are what's going to make you grow. Risks are what's going to actually propel you into that next level. And my last one, that's more of a technical thing, not as much mindset, is I really like that. Asking budget up front and then letting them know why you're asking that budget up front. So you can have that more transparent, open conversation and see if it's something where, like you said, they might not even know how much it costs. They're just like, oh yeah, I'll figure it out. So yeah, all really, really good. I had a great time. Laureen, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You have a great day.
Absolutely. You as well.